Hey, you guys, are you having conversations without us? Look at this. Look at this. Look who's here. He's actually in studio. Solly Moeng. It's so nice to see you, my friend. And
I'm very happy to be here.
You're welcome home, as Phumi said to you just a second ago. It's nice to have you in South Africa. We usually talk to you online.
From the person in the pictures?
I know.
You're much taller.
He's a very handsome man, this, and he's dressed immaculately. He's in the khakis.
I know
and
he
whites.
arrived here in the neutral tones.
I need somebody to cut my hair.
Just grab that mic and pull it a little bit closer.
Come on.
Yeah.
Be comfortable. There we go. There we are. Very good. Okay. So, Solly, you are here for a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, you shouldn't have to explain why you're here. This is your country. You can go wherever you want. But you're an expert in brand reputation management, let's remind people, part-time lecturer at the EU Business School, as well as a freelance writer and columnist, and a regular favorite on this show, which we're delighted about. Last time he was here, we spoke about his new venture, which is a think tank called the Africa Brand Summit. And you want to give us an update on that quickly?
Well, the Africa Brand Summit remember there was a government-funded campaign called the guerrilla campaign, their words, to destroy it. And so the last time we had a full summit was in 2020. 2021, I was limping away from all the pain, and people were called basically to not support this thing.
No, they were actively working against you to try and cut you off at the knees.
Yeah. Did you ever find out why?
Well, apparently Brand SA felt that they should be doing what I was doing, but they were not doing what I was doing. So they said, why? Apparently questions were, why is this doing this? We should be doing this. I mean, look, the people in the marketing department of Brand SA came to meet me in Cape Town, including their chief marketing officer at the time. They wanted to work with me. We started working on an MOI, but their CEO at the time said, nope, we're not working with this guy. He's going to embarrass Zuma. There was a dude called King
You were going to embarrass Zuma.
Yeah, so
like he couldn't do that himself.
Yeah, well, he was doing it already. So they said we're not working with this dude.
He certainly didn't need your help.
And then in the board, look, it's important that we say these things. I think the board of Brand SA for at the time, at least, they forgot that they were working for country. They were working for Zuma, for the ANC.
They were captured.
They were captured.
Everyone else.
They were at the beck and call of politicians. Anybody who didn't speak the way they did, or who they felt would call out things for what they are, would have problems. So I know I'm one of those people. And so apparently a campaign was fun. So when this event was held very successfully in 2018, 2019, everybody said, please bring it to Joburg. And this is where they took out everything at it. They threw everything at it. It was financially painful for me because people were going to sponsor it.
Well, they attacked your business.
Yeah,
this is like cancel culture on steroids.
But it went beyond the Brand Summit. I mean, we've spoken about this before. I really don't want to be the victim because I knew when I went into the kitchen that I would meet this kind of heat. I mean, even in my own other consulting businesses, associates were told, look, if you work with Solly, you're not going to get that other one over there. Remove Solly from your website as an associate, and then you get this business. This sort of thing. So we like to say that there's freedom of expression in South Africa, which there is. But what they do, unlike in a place like Egypt, they don't arrest you. What they do is they clip you where you earn your living. They damage your livelihood. That's what they did to me.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you never had any government business. We certainly haven't.
No.
I mean, despite very cordial relations, we've spoken to a number of departments in government. I'm actively trying to remind them that we're not in principle opposed. We want a government that works.
Of course.
And we will support government with media and content, but we've never had any business.
Yeah.
Never.
Well,
yeah,
I think, Solly, you also raised something quite fascinating for me about the separation of the state from the politicians, right? Which over the years, and I think it definitely steeped in quite deeply in the Zuma years, but we still have that problem where really there is no line between who is doing what and with whose money and for whose benefit.
Correct.
And now that it is the silly season in politics where everybody is out campaigning, we also see a lot of that kind of being brought to bear, just in terms of how campaigning has been done. And very famously, a couple of years ago, you'll remember the Combi Cots story.
Yeah.
I don't remember the comic story.
You don't know that? Okay, so there was a politician who was caught on camera in a work setting, absolutely lambasting, and now I will have to remember what her name is, talking about building combi courts and the fact that we want the combi courts so we can campaign for our people.
Yes, I remember. Now vaguely, yes.
Absolutely. And right now, you see a lot of it, right? You see a lot of Nasi Spani here in Gauteng with Panyaza Lusofi.
Yeah.
We're doing this. And we're kind of wondering, why have you waited 5 years to put in new transformers? But now that we're about to vote, the transformers are magically here.
We know how politicians
I think the other problem is with senior civil servants who are second guessing what politicians want. These are the guys who are deployed into the state institutions. They hope for better deployments in foreign service, in parliament, in other institutions. So they want to do what they think their political matters do. Or sometimes there are direct instructions for people to do certain things. I mean,
they're just
a professional
sycophants. They're sycophants.
But it is not unheard of in the world that there is a clear line between the politics of individuals and the opportunities within the states. This is not unique to South Africa.
There are consequences. Look, I live in a country where there's no such thing. I'm sorry. Nobody can say corruption and these influences do not happen anywhere in the world, in other places in the world. But it's very brazen, very blatant in South Africa. I mean,
it is.
We like to talk about South African problems that are really, some of them are really acute in South Africa. I say, but they exist anywhere in the world. But there are some things that in South Africa that are shocking. I mean, maybe in the world we mean in Africa, or maybe in Russia. Not even in China do they tolerate many of the things that happen here.
Maybe this is where we should start, because I actually asked someone on Monday this week. I was in a conversation with somebody, and I said, how much is acceptable in corruption? Like, because there is going to be some. No, I mean, you're an idealist. You're an idealist.
What is the in retail they call it shrinkage.
Yeah,
they call it shrinkage.
So
there's a margin.
What's an acceptable amount of corruption? Because if even in the United States, we know there's a very corrupt political system there, and you've got people who, like Senator Dianne Feinstein, who dies and she's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and you think, well, she shouldn't be as wealthy as that based on the fact that she was a lifelong politician,
right?
And politicians shouldn't be hundreds of millions of dollars worth when they die. 20% corruption, 30% corruption. A country can slide by on those numbers. It's not acceptable. Nobody wants it.
But we did some months ago. We had a friend of mine from Japan. Oh, I think you were away, Gareth, and we spoke about that. I mean, Japan is one of those places where they have had the same governing party since Fontuka. They have the kind of corruption that was spoken about in Japan, kind of COVID corruption, all of that, right? But things work.
Yeah, that's it.
But
the trains are on time.
I mean, we've seen people kill themselves for having been found for having done stuff.
Things work.
Right.
I think one of the things that is particularly grating for South Africa and South Africans is when things aren't working. When you hear the story of the Giyani water project,
right,
and the billions that have been spent there, and the fact that there are 5
and then you
boreholes.
see the guy who was supposed to have done it handing out G-Wagons to his friends and posing for photographs at social events in expensive suits, and he's just a fat cat who's connected to the right people. It upsets me on such a, like if he was delivering the water,
right,
and he was skimming off.
No one would give a shit.
The problem with South Africa is that there are no consequences in too many places. So people just do what even leaders of this country don't have any moral high ground to speak from. So people just do whatever they do. They know they'll get away with it if they're connected politically. There's not a sense of public good. There's not a sense of where does this country come from? what is the pain of this country? What is the journey of this country? Where are we taking this country to? How privileged am I to be in this position to help take this country from a certain position to another? It's not about that. It's about how much can I get
absolutely.
when I'm still in the system.
All of politics, with very few exceptions, we may just meet one of the people who's an exception a little bit later on. We still have to figure him out, but I'm hopeful. The politician, by nature, there's almost this idea that if someone wants to be president, that should disqualify them from the outset, because those kind of people are power-hungry, narcissistic, egomaniacs. Yeah, of course. But we do have a sense of this desperation. Like for some people, politics is their way out of poverty or into tremendous wealth. And we've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Look at what BEE's done in this country. Yeah. And that's all political connection.
Yeah, and they still protect it. They still want to keep it as it is.
Yeah, and they don't let anyone else in.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not like this has been broad-based, which are the first two Bs, right? There's no broad-based. It's the same people who've received the same board board of director positions, shares, shareholdings, all these kinds of things. It's the same people, and they're all politically connected. And therefore, the rest of the country looks at this and goes, well, if I'm going to be really wealthy, if I want to shoot the lights out in South Africa, what I have to do is get myself into that position. Just like you said about the civil servants who will do whatever they have to please their political masters so that they can get some money. That's what they're after.
So then, in your view, how do we begin to correct this? Because some way it's gone wrong, right? So how do we begin to correct this way of being and move it into a different plane?
And this is partly why I'm here. It's very ambitious. I think that what we have done in South Africa as the people, the civil society in general, over time we have placed all the power in the hands of politicians. When you listen to South Africans speak, even ahead of the next elections, people say, you hear people asking, what do you think is going to happen? Whom do you think is going to coalesce, align with whom? It's almost like South Africans are watching a South African movie in which a road was not allocated to them. And I keep asking, but what do you want to do? I think that the people need to stand up and say what we want. All the scenarios that have been put out there in terms of what could come out of the elections next year do not take into account the possibility of South African citizens standing up to say, what about us? This is what we want. In 1955, ahead of people came together, they created a freedom charter. People still talk about it. Some of its clauses ended up in the Constitution. I think it's about time that we coalesce, created a loose network of civil society formations, not politicians, and got together to come up with a new charter of demands. What do the people want? So that it's no longer up to politicians to say, vote for us, we'll do this for you, but up to us to say, we'll vote for you if you did this for us.
Okay, but there are two things here then, just out of what Sally said now. So the first one is we need to participate more meaningfully in our own system, which is it's a Phumi-ism. She says this every week. It is. You've been banging this drum since time immemorial. So we have to get involved. We have to understand the processes of our democracy and make ourselves indispensable to them. In other words, you don't get time off as a citizen. And you vote once every 4 or 5 years and then you just forget about it. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility continues every day.
To monitor.
I met two people yesterday who are complaining about like some construction that's happening on the East Rand. And they're very worried and they're petitioning their local councillor and they're trying to get media involved. That's what you got to do.
Right.
You have to be an activist in your own community and then start climbing up the ladder and involving yourself in stuff. So that's our responsibility. But the other side, I just want to finish this. Other side is we need to see people going to jail.
Yes, there's got to be consequences.
I don't know how many times. Let's just build a new prison and just fill it up as quickly as we can. We start a special court. We find some retired judges, put them on the bench again, pay them a nice little retirement salary, and you say to them, you are going to be solely tasked with prosecuting politicians who have stolen money and sending them to this new prison that we'll build.
Phumi doesn't seem happy.
I am also just thinking about, which is another thing that we've been talking a lot about, is the number of people who've opted out of the system,
Yes.
right? We have had,
Yes.
we have a small announcement. There's a voter registration weekend happening this weekend.
Yes.
All the voting stations will be open. You can go to your closest one. You can, if you've got an 18-year-old child, if you've got a cousin, if you've got your brother's dogs, none of the, the helper's son, daughter, whatever, get the young people
Yes.
registered to vote, because
Right.
this is the problem that we have. More and more young people have opted out
Yep.
of the system. They are not even interested. So it's not even, they're not even showing up to vote, because they are simply just going,
Yeah,
the
it's
system's
worse. It's
fucked
worse
up.
than that. It's worse than that. What I find in South Africa during this particular trip is, for me, shocking. It's a different perspective from South Africans are resilient people. It's a resilience that is scaring me, because it's almost like a nation that suddenly realized it has a cancer. This cancer is metastasizing.
Metastasizing.
Yes, but it's long.
and they pretend. Then they say to themselves, "It's too big. There's nothing I can do about this thing. I'd rather focus." So people have retreated into bubbles. They live their lives everywhere. They go to restaurants. They meet friends. They have parties. But there's this big monster. They missed. The monster is still there. The cancer is still growing in the body, and they don't know what to do. They feel powerless, fearful of the cancer. That is what scares me. I think South Africans need to realize it's when they come together that they can change things. I don't believe that what we need is to deal with the issues that you've mentioned, just get these people arrested. Of course, we have to do that, but I think we need a lot more than that. We need to look at systemic changes that must happen. We need to look at this system that we adopted 30 years ago, these institutions of democracy that we thought would stand between us and hell, and they have failed. They've proven over and over again that they can be weakened and repurposed to serve politicians.
What do you practically mean?
Okay.
Because we often
Let me
have,
answer
we've
that.
spoken to you before on the show
Yeah.
a number of times. You have good ideas, but we talk about systemic problems, and it's almost like a cop-out, because people go, oh, well, that sounds vague enough. That Solly sounds very smart. We should listen to him. But what do you actually mean by that?
Well, what I
what
mean-
should we reform first?
Well, first of all, we are into the foreseeable future into a multi-party democracy. I think we should create systems that support that kind of democracy, where there's not too much dominance by one party. The drafters of our constitution have placed too much power in the presidency. The SIU, when they suspect a crime happening, they still need to go to the president to ask for a decree. If not, they won't investigate that crime. It's nonsense. There's got to be a separation there. The drafters of our constitution never thought of a time when a Zondo kind of commission would happen, and the report would be given to the president of the party as a center of the mess we are in. Madonsela was very smart when she said to Zuma, you can't be the one to draw the terms of reference for this, because you are the guy at the center of the problem. And remember, there was a big fight over there. Zondo should have done the same thing. He could have said, but Mr. President, you are the president of the ANC. The ANC is in the middle of this mess. We need to find another way to deal with it. They didn't think about it. So what's happened? They give it to the same guys. They're not doing anything about it.
But is that a function of the failing of individuals within, or the failing of tools? I think it is the failing of individuals. If Thuli could do it, why could Zondo not?
Well,
the tools are there.
It was extraordinary for Thuli to do that, and everybody spoke about it. But she was able to justify it.
And hence I'm saying to you that the tools exist. And it is a failing of an individual who is unable to work the tool for that particular purpose. If Thuli could do it, if within the law we have all of these provisions that allow these things, this is Chapter 9 institutions are supposed to, within the law, be able to create these bubbles, right? If Thuli could do it, the fact that Zondo did not is a Zondo failing and not a tool failing.
No. Can I just say, you will recall that former Deputy Chief Justice Hamus Zaneke once said, there's too much power in the presidency, because the people who drafted our constitution thought everybody would come and be like Mandela, and we've seen all the schmucks who've come into that office. So the fact is, if you have a system that is open to abuse, you need to strengthen the checks and balances, because you don't know who else is going to come into that system and abuse it. The systems that we have proven over and over again that they can be abused. So we cannot have a conversation about them.
Let's just. I don't disagree with you, and I don't think Phumi is either. But we all know that it's very easy for politicians and for organs of state and bureaucracies and even officers to gather power unto themselves. Mm-hmm. And they've done, during COVID, for example, there were extraordinary powers that government should not have had that were immediately assumed by government, and you never get those back. Right. As citizens, you give up your rights to the government once, they're never going to give them back to you. Yeah. Now, the presidency is, as you rightly say, a locus of tremendous authority at the moment, and they have perhaps in that office way too much power in way too many places.
And
how do you abrogate that?
But also a president who has used all these tools to appropriate more and more power towards himself.
Now, how do you reverse that? That is an extremely difficult thing to do.
Well, I'm having conversations with many people. I'm fortunate to be able to access a lot of these leaders in the opposition, including the Multiparty Pact and Moeng. I'm trying to reach out to them to say, why don't, first of all of them, as you said, want to be president. People go into this space because they think, I'm going to be the next big hero for South Africa. And I'm saying, why don't you guys come up with something different? Something like, I say, okay, you create a pact and you come up with some form of rotational presidency of sorts, which our constitutional arrangement doesn't currently allow, but you can amend. If you come in and you come up with a compelling campaign to attract those many South Africans who've opted out of the system. It's not just young people. Many people have opted out. You say to them, we have something interesting for you. We have a proposal. No, nobody is going to be. So you have a president, say not Malema, that one. The other ones who are a bit more mature, temperamentally.
So how do you keep him out?
Look at poor Colin.
So these guys, and I'm going to shut up now. So they come in a rotation. You say you are president for 6 months or 12 months, but you just the guy who goes to the UN, who receives raising heads of state. But the work is done at the core. We could do that. It's doable if people want to do it.
And you test the resilience of the system that way, because it doesn't really matter who's president.
You take away the power from the individual. That's what needs to happen.
Okay, I like that. We've got a couple of comments here that I just want to get to quickly. So Patrick is very cross. So he says in the comments, people want us to vote, but why should we vote if they just talk cuck all the time? Why do you think young people are not interested? Because politicians cause cuck all the time, fighting each other. And it is about like jockeying for office and for power.
Look, I think that South Africa is in a very different part of its history where a lot is at stake, a lot needs to happen. I met with William Kumet, who's the convener of this multi-party chart. I had a very interesting discussion with him. I didn't tell him that I would mention that here, but I like the fact that these guys, to your point, have at some point agreed that on their own they cannot move the beast. They have to work together. It's almost like they have to gang up against the beast. It's a new thing for them, because suddenly we're having conversations about it's not about you, Steenhuisen, or you, Mashaba, or you, the other person, becoming the president. It's bigger than this is for our country. How do we make this thing and make you feel that you contribute to the project without being the one who gets to cut the ribbon, because everybody wants to be the one to cut the ribbon.
It will become about that, and here's the thing, right? The way that Parliament, the legislatures, all of those structures are supposed to be operating isn't exactly this way.
Of course, that's why
they have failed. What they failed to do, I don't know how they're going to do it, because they have signed a piece of paper. What they failed to do, and we see it currently in the municipalities, is they're failing at the politics of politicking, right?
Yeah.
They're unable to walk the floors and get other people from other parties onto their side to support whatever initiative, whatever bill they are putting. And the one thing that the ANC has done well, to the detriment of the people, right, is they are able to do that. The reason they are able to horse trade with the EFF, the reason they are able to horse trade with the EFF is because they are willing to go and have a conversation with them outside of the glare of the lights to say, this is what we want to do. You have to vote for us on this.
But it's not for nothing. Let's not be naive.
It's not for nothing.
Yeah.
It's for positions and money.
Yeah.
But my point being that the Action SA, DA, UDM, IFP, all of those guys, FF, have the same opportunity to go and talk to each other and coalesce around whatever they...
Right.
This is what they're supposed to be
they
doing
also-
every day.
Okay, but also
They're not doing it.
We have bad faith actors here. Like, you can't actually sit and have a serious and meaningful discussion with integrity where you're dealing with people who are acting in bad faith. They are acting purely in self-interest.
Yeah.
They don't even necessarily represent the mandate that's given to them by those voters. They are in it for themselves.
You're
But
absolutely correct. But
Right now, so
Yeah, go ahead,
Sally, I'll
go
let
ahead,
you.
go ahead.
So right now, as they're supposed to be campaigning to people to tell them to give them the mandate, to get the numbers behind them,
Yeah.
they are not spending time doing that. Instead, they are spending time talking to each other, trying to convince each other to agree that they're going to work together. They're going to protect the little that they have. Instead of being out there getting young people to go and register to vote, all that they have done is they have put up posters and they're hoping that
no, but I think
people
they
are
should
going
do
to-
both. I think
They should.
They should talk to each other. Like you say, the changes that are needed in this country will not be done. There's not a single political party, no matter how charming, how well dressed the leader is, that will win and dislodge the
Who are you
ANC on
talking
its own.
about right
Anybody
now?
who thinks they're charming and good looking and they speak good English, okay? They need to get their
feel like
egos
you're
and leave them
subtweeting
out the
someone.
door. No, but this is serious. This is about South Africa. This is our South Africa. People must stop thinking that it's about them, their egos, their political parties, their civil society movements.
I have a
Okay?
potential
They have to
solution.
work together, but they also have to go there and say, we are working together now. It's a different time. They are all trying to get use of a different way of running politics.
I have a potential solution. We can keep the systems working. We can reduce the power of the people in those systems, and we can reduce their dependency on the office financially by completely, I mean, we can decimate the salaries. If we made
Who's we?
the people, if the people of South Africa decided we are not paying the president more than 50 grand a month, and we're not paying, I mean, this current president wouldn't care less because he doesn't need the money. But most people in political office, if the president's only earning 50 and your municipal managers only earn 30, you're not going to get people who are after greed and corruption there.
Right.
You're going to get people who actually want to serve.
And
You don't think is that
Gareth,
facile?
You know,
You're gonna find other ways of getting the money.
disagree that our current president doesn't care because he doesn't need the money. I don't think he needs the money, but I think he wants the money. And it's what it is. For me, it is one of the biggest. Every time I see the decisions that the president is making, when I hear him speak, it is the single biggest driving force of this particular president is in amassing more and more wealth. You know, he is out there all over the world with the begging bowl. We're back to the kind of fiscal lending that we haven't seen since before Nelson Mandela. We are back there. And we truly are in, and the levers of power are such that whether we decide to opt out of it or not, they will just simply go and borrow
I
more
think
money. What we do need is in my view, much more active citizens who care about the country, putting their hands up to be in those positions. It is because that's how you have to overwhelm the system with people who care more about the country than themselves.
Yeah, you're right, Phumi. I mean, but you're not taking it far enough. Citizens have to stand up, no doubt about it. We have to be counted. But how? There are systemic things that have to happen to legally give the citizens the power. Because right now, in the current system, politicians go in there and they can show us a middle finger all they want. They've done it over and over again, and they will do it again. So we need to be able to have buffers that will ensure that, first of all, parliamentarians report to people, not to political party bosses. We've seen how many times, even when something is good for the people but not good for a political boss, they opt to defend the political boss against the broader interests of our people. So you're going to send people into that system that is so vulnerable to abuse. we need to say, fine, let's send people in there, but let's ensure that we send them with a mandate. These are the changes that we want to see. Some of them will be short term, others medium term, others long term. But we want you to go into the system and start working on these things to ensure that we are never abused again, as we have been over the past 20 years or so.
Yeah, and maybe, on reflection, just cutting some salaries right down to the bones isn't going to make a difference, because people aren't earning their corrupt money through those salaries. They're earning their corrupt money through all the tenders and deals that they do on the side.
And we must stop dealing with them as heroes and heroines, because they're not.
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe we should even stop standing up when they come into rooms.
This is what I was thinking the other day. So often you'll go to places around town, in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban. You'll see people spending money, being flashy with their money. And very often these people are not self-made entrepreneurs. These are people who are tenderpreneurs, or they're related to someone in power or something like that. Perhaps what we should do is start making their lives uncomfortable.
Shame them.
In a social way.
Yeah.
And actually refusing to in any way include these people in society.
Yeah.
It must be impossible for them to spend their ill-gotten gains in sophisticated and decent society.
Right, yeah.
And that's a real way to hurt people who are actually just looking for social acceptance. They would prefer that to being rich. And if we deny them that, perhaps that'll filter back into the system. I don't know. It's a long vision. That's a long goal. Maybe it's completely imperfect.
Well, it's possible if people unite. For now, in the same way that there's a whole fragmentation, they say archipelization in the political side, on the social civil society side. It's the same thing. Many civil society movements, individuals doing amazing things, but they're all running in their own silos. At some point, we need to find a way to coalesce, to converge as a people. And we'll disagree on some things, agree on something. Build a basket of things that are non-negotiable to build the country that we must be.
All right, so I want to ask you both something, because you're now in the country, so you've seen the posters. Phumi referred to them. So I see SARA, the South African Rainbow Alliance, which is Colleen Makobele, formerly of COPE. She's running it. Seems to have a lot of posters up.
Yeah.
I've seen them in Pretoria and Johannesburg.
Where's she getting the money from?
Angas. But fine. Wherever she's getting the money from.
Yeah, but it's a coalition. It's a coalition of smaller parties. Maybe they have pooled together the money they get from the
I'm less worried
IEC.
about the money, but I see Rise Mzansi.
You must be worried about the money.
Well, yeah, we get to that. But I see Rise Mzansi, which is Songezo Zibi.
Right.
I see SARA, which is Colleen Makubele. Who else are we seeing? I don't see any other.
Is my money out there on posters?
I don't see my money on posters. I don't see Herman.
Herman is all over the place.
Does it matter
do
the posters matter?
No,
so here is your opportunity, because you are the brand guy.
They do matter. Visibility does matter. I mean, people tend to go to navigate towards brands they are familiar with. Mentally, we have seen that. If you go into Google, you want to buy something, you see several brands. Something that you're familiar with means it's there, it stays, it's solid. So you tend to go towards it generally.
But is the poster the right one? I'll tell you, I've not seen a single damn poster of Panyaza Lusufi, but I can't get away from the man. Every time I'm on any kind of platform, any kind of the socials, he is right there. He is right there.
Yeah,
he is everywhere. Is that not the way to be spending the money? Is that not the way people are spending their money?
People who are in the ANC have access to public resources. Okay, the president can speak. You don't know whether he speaks as president of the ANC or the president of South Africa. Panyaza can do the same thing. So they have more resources than other people. They have more opportunities to appear out there, to speak, to address issues at our expense, even in favor of their political party, than other people don't.
No, but I'm just talking to the point that Gareth is making about all of the posters that you are seeing, that money is being spent.
Right.
Is that money, as a brand person, as a marketer, are they spending that money wisely, putting it on a
Let me give you a short answer is, the posters alone are not enough, but it's good to have them. It's good to have the presence, but it's not enough to just rely on the presence of posters.
I wish they were saying something.
You need to engage. No, you do need to engage. You need to go out there.
This is another thing, is what are they saying? Because they're not telling us anything. They're saying, Rise Mzansi, got a logo. And a lot of them look like they were generated by AI. They're completely generic
That's possible.
and trying to be everything to everybody. So
It's 5 primary colors.
it's got all the it's exactly. It's so predictable. It's been put through an AI engine without a doubt. And to me, there's a lack of attention to detail.
Look,
what's the message?
Let me tell you something. We're not talking about funding, and funding is really important. If you have funds, especially including in South Africa, especially in South Africa, you can go further. You can grow your footprint, your visibility all over the place. Now, big business in South Africa is behind the ANC led by Ramaphosa. They announced it.
He's
They're
the
working
incumbent.
So, and I was at a workshop in Stellenbosch 2 weeks ago. People were talking about
That's where the money is.
But let me tell you, there were about 30 people in that room. They were talking about how to get more people to register to vote and to educate them. But they were not prepared to talk about what else, what then? How do we ensure people, how do we get people to talk about what kind of South Africa they want?
Because that's the hard work.
People said, if I start getting into that conversation, my funders will pull the money. I was shocked.
Really? Why do you think that is?
Because they don't want to upset the political status. So they say we're happy to fund something that gets more people to vote, to educate them about how to vote.
But are they secretly hoping that it stays the way it is?
Absolutely.
We've
Absolutely.
spoken about this though. So look, we've spoken about this on the show. That there is definitely a push to support Cyril Ramaphosa and to support the incumbent. He is the incumbent, guys. And there are many people making lots of money in the chaos that is the wake of the ANC. For those people, it is, hell, why change the status quo? For those people, why change the status quo? If you are Discovery, all the money you're making out of medical aids, if you are Netcare, all the money you're making from private healthcare, why would you want to support somebody that is going to fix the public sector healthcare?
Yeah,
why would you do that?
Somebody said to me, if load shedding goes away, it's going to hurt our business. Okay.
What business is that?
I want
So although
it's frightening.
and a couple of months ago, a colleague and myself spent some time in Washington, and which is the capital of the world, the political capital of the world. And one of the things that I learned there and got to understand quite integrally is about supporting the incumbent, right? Because the incumbent, you talk to how much the ANC has access to government money, and so they have a bigger share of voice, blah, blah, blah. They have much more opportunity of retaining their seat, right? So the smart money backs the incumbent.
Yeah, of course.
In an environment like South Africa, though, where there is so much opportunity to disrupt the status quo, simply because the incumbent has failed on so many levels for so long, and we are at an opportune time to absolutely disrupt that. I, unfortunately, as a brand person myself and a marketer, see a lack of will from from all of the competitors, as it were, a lack of will to win.
Yeah.
They're not telling us anything. So you see a Sarah poster. They're not telling us anything apart from the fact that they have Colleen Makubele's face plastered there, right? So if you don't know who she is, you have no reason to kind of find out a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
If they are not telling us what they stand for, then you're kind of going, why am I giving you my vote? I don't know what you stand for. The two people who are telling us what they stand for very loudly all the time, whether you agree with it or not, is the EFF and it is the ANC.
Yes.
All the other people are telling us is they are anti-ANC.
Yeah. I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same conversation. Look, at some point we need to elevate the conversation to what do you think the people of this country want? We know what politicians want. It's more of they're going to go into the system. That's what scares me.
We know what the people of this country want. The people of this country want, yes, young people want jobs. Young people want jobs and they want living wages. What the people of this country want is they want a country that works. They want to feel safe and secure, and they want to be able to go about their lives.
They also want probably equality before the law. Right now, we are at some kind of Orwellian animal farm. Surely you go and steal an Omo at your nearest Pick and Pay, and you don't have money for bail. You're going to rot in there. How many people have stolen
You
millions
wouldn't
from
need
us,
to
and
steal.
they're
You wouldn't
politically
need to steal an
protected?
Omo if you had a good job that paid you well.
No, but the point is, it happens. People do steal loaves of bread and Omos and stuff every day in this country. And if they don't have money for bail, they rot in jail. People have stolen millions that could have helped this country recover from so many ills of the past and of the present, and then they're still being protected. Zuma has still not been charged for state capture, as a matter of fact. He's at the center of that project.
No one has.
He has not been charged. Where are those guys? Matela Koko, some of them, they get invited on these platforms. You know what I'm saying? It makes me mad that we give them the platform. Where is Batohi? Is she still any in a salary? Who appointed that woman? I mean, surely.
Right.
If
President Cyril Ramaphosa.
the more she speaks, the more she appears like she's a politician,
Yeah. Listen.
making
we've been
promises that she never delivers, so she must just
talk about
go.
beating a drum. We've been beating that one with Shamila Batohi for ages. Couldn't agree more.
You're not gonna get pushback from here.
All right, so let's just talk quickly about what ordinary citizens can do, because I do get frustrated, and I know you guys, who are listening, and Phumi and Solly, you guys too. When you say people must get involved, what do you mean? Must they actually stand for political office? Because people have
Yes.
jobs, they have children, they have expenses, they have things to do. They don't have time to campaign. Or do we just have to make time out of nothing? What do you mean? What must we get on our local municipality, our local city council? What must we do?
There are plenty of ways of being more active. Like I said, I've said this before, there's numbers to begin with, right?
Yeah.
If each one of us listening to the show here today
Yes.
were to convince 5 people to vote along with us in a particular way, you have moved the dial. If you have 1 million people convincing 5 people each, you've got 5 million people voting for a particular way. So helping your organization that you believe in to win
Sure.
is being part of the solution. Where you have the capacity, if you have 10 Rand, 100 Rand, 1,000 Rand, then donate to a party that you believe in. They need the money. They need the funds to be able to campaign, to be able to run their offices, to be able to do all of the things that you are not willing to do. If you have the skill, whether it is a town planning skill, whether it is an engineering skill, whether it is a administrative skill, give your time. Give your time to an organization that you believe has the opportunity to shift the dial in whatever direction you wanted to shift the dial. But really and truly, you will not have that job. You will not have those, you will not have the nice house. You will not have the dog to look after, or your kids will have no future if we don't all stand up and do something now.
Yeah, I think there are all those practical things that you've just mentioned, which I entirely agree with, that must happen. But I think there's also, we have elections coming up. We have to find a way to put conditions to these people contesting elections next year. What do we want? For instance, on the 28th of November this year, unfortunately I won't be here, I've seen somewhere that the Interparty group, Multiparty Charter, is inviting civil society to meet with it somewhere in Johannesburg. I'm afraid that people are going to go there and listen to these politicians without being prepared about what they want to say to them. I would urge people who go to meet these people to go there prepared with
a plan.
With a plan. We will support you. This is if you do this X, Y, Z.
And hold them to it.
And if you
say them sign up for
this. If you
this.
promise to do this and you sign up, we'll sign a pledge. Yeah. These are the things that we want you to do, and we will support you. Okay. It's not about you telling us what you're going to do. It's about us saying,
when is this the 28th of November?
28th of November, somewhere in Johannesburg. I'll share. I saw the invitation. Somewhere I'll share it with you.
That would be
so people must be prepared when they go to those interactions, so that it's not politicians talking down at the people, but the people going there with readiness about what they want to see emerge next year.
I heard somebody say, again, I can't recall who it was this week. We do like the Zuma Year, as they call it now. When you're in medicine, You have to go and work for the state for a year. You have to get that time in. You have to. It's almost like a service that you deliver to the state.
Right.
And we do this with very few other occupations. And this is the problem. Like if you're an accountant or an auditor, maybe instead of doing your articles, you also have to do a year, or perhaps it's that year, and you go into a municipality and you deal with one client. And so we have constant fresh blood coming in to clean out the system of all those corrupt practices. So you have someone come in who's an ambitious, newly qualified accountant or auditor, and they go into the Bloemfontein municipality, Mangaung, and they get given just some small project, which is then almost ring-fenced so that it can't be fiddled with by whoever's in charge. And these are just the numbers.
Right.
And here it is. This is your social service that you deliver to the country as your year of kind of becoming part of the future of South Africa in that profession.
And the KPIs must be clear.
Don't you think there's a possibility that could be useful too? And it would also get the young people who are going to be the leaders of the future conscientized into how government works.
Yeah.
Or again, is that just pie in the sky?
I think at a high level, we need, all of that is correct, I totally agree. But at the high level, we also, this country has not had a leader for many years who is able to stand up above the fray and talk to all South Africans across the board and say, guys, this is who we are, this is where we're going. Mandela was able to do that. Nobody else has been able to do that. I think the people of this country, look at how they've been calling Siya Kolisi to become president.
I know.
Suddenly,
People
wow,
are calling
look
for
at this
you.
guy. Look at how
People in the comments section are saying Solly Moeng for president, so just be careful, don't knock it.
But we do that in South Africa. When somebody says something, we're like, yeah, you got to be president.
Got to be president.
So I think that this country needs somebody who can rally the people across and not refer to just one group as his or her people. We need a president who doesn't respond to the political party in order to be the president that he or she must be. That's what we need. We are a complex country. People can side Singapore or Rwanda all they want. South Africa is a super complex country. And if you don't have the moral or the emotional intelligence and the maturity, the vision, the balance, the empathy to lead a country as complex and as pained as this country, you cannot be. If you blow your fuse too quickly because somebody disagrees with you suddenly want to punch people on international forums, you can't lead this country. You need to see a doctor and sort out your unresolved childhood issues before you can lead a country as this one.
But on the one hand, you say we need this kind of a leader, and on the other hand, you say all of these people want to be a president. Maybe the reason all of these people want to be the president is because they are saying, I have what it takes to be this. I have what it takes to be this. And that's what that in their minds, they may not be telling us why they believe that is. But on the other side, you then also say you want to chastise them for doing that, and then you're saying we need this kind of a leader.
We need to be clear about what we want and what we don't want, okay? I mean, they may want to be president. Many people want to be president, but we see this kind of things and how they respond to issues in the public. Some of them have already long disqualified themselves to lead a country such as South Africa by the way they conduct themselves in public. I'm sorry. We should be able to look the beasts in the eye and call them out for what they are. This country needs somebody who is emotionally mature. I don't care whether they're gay, lesbian, Indian, color, it doesn't matter. They respect the complex diversity, beauty, the potential that lies in who we are as a country. And respect that. No matter how angry or tempted they get, this country belongs to all South Africans. It's not negotiable. It should never be negotiable. The minute you go in there, you're going to divide our people. You're going to mess it up. This is where we are at. It's painful. We should not anymore have a world where the winners take all, zero-sum games. Okay, you can build your throne with violence.
But we don't have a winner-takes-all environment.
We do. Many South Africans are made to feel they don't belong because of you don't look this way, you don't look this way. We should stop that. We should stop that. We should build a country for everybody. We should make every South African, every child, South African child feel they can be president, irrespective of whom they sleep with, how they pray, what they look like. We don't. We've created an environment and we've normalized it where some belong more than others. It's nonsense. And we shouldn't have leaders who make that feel even more normal, because we live in a country where a lie many times repeated seems like truth to many people.
But we don't have an environment where it's a winner takes all. That's why we have we have proportional representation.
We need to be rallied.
It's not proportional representation absolutely means that the winner does not take all. The reason we are able to have a conversation about the fact that going into 2024, there is a very real reality that the ANC will be whittled down below 50% is because there is no first across the line, because we have got proportional representation. So what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'd like to refer. Okay, I'd just like to refer to something that maybe hints at what Phumi's talking about here, because this is important. So there was an interesting thing that the Daily Maverick published, and I've been slightly disappointed in the Daily Maverick myself in the last couple of years. But let's put that aside. They looked at, for example, they asked a couple of questions. They've done some polling, and this is useful information. You might not like their political angle on things, but this is useful. What word or phrase describes how you feel about South Africa right now? The biggest word was disappointed. The next biggest were corruption, worried, hopeless, sad, confused, frustrated, hopeless, angry, disaster, ashamed, tired. None of these are good words, right?
No.
There are a couple of good words here. That there's good, which came up, but very, very small. There's developing. There's positive. There's concern.
Is this a word cloud?
Yeah, it's a word cloud. Then you've got, give an example of something that is going wrong. And they immediately, the load shedding is the biggest part of that.
No.
Then unemployment, then corruption, then crime, then inflation, economy, water supply, food prices. These are all very practical things. They're not ideological things.
Sure.
South Africans, again, to go back to something that has come up on the show a million times, the IRR years ago did this survey where they tried to figure out what the biggest issues are that affect and torture South Africans. None of them were ideological things like race identity, land, religion, politics. They don't care about that. Ordinary South Africans are interested in load shedding, unemployment, inflation, economy, service delivery, crime, corruption, infrastructure, food prices.
They want a country that works.
They want a
That's
country
what
that works. They just want practical leadership. They
correct.
want bureaucrats who will get things done that they'll never know the names of.
Yes.
That's what they
totally
want.
agree with that.
They don't want leaders.
Yeah.
They want people who can get shit done.
Yeah.
And then give an example of something that is going right. So this is an interesting word cloud too, because you have to dig deep to find something that's going right. And what the general consensus was here is more job opportunities. So people are seeing that. They mean the private sector.
Right.
They don't mean government. Lots of people saying nothing. Nothing is going right. That's scary.
It's very scary.
Education, some people. Very small number, but some. SRD grant. So that is going right for some people because it's keeping them out of abject poverty. It's not exactly lifting their living standards, but it's keeping them out of abject.
Safety issues, corruption, not mentioned.
Economy, BRICS. That's interesting. BRICS comes up. Sport is a big thing. Justice system, some people said. Reduced crime, some said. COVID recovery, some said. But those are the big words.
Yeah.
Now,
Look,
I think that's pretty scary. And then they also in the same study published this. 3 polls that have recently come out show that ANC support is falling off a cliff at the moment.
Good. I'm sorry.
Are we happy about that? No. Are we happy? You're allowed to express your opinion. You think that's great.
I'm happy. I think it should. 30 years too much. We've given them too much. They can't say they haven't had enough time to try. The solutions that this country needs in order to get out of the rut will not come from the African National Congress. It won't. There's a whole. There is an old animal with ingrained cultures. There's not one man who can come up there and change that.
Old dog, no new tricks.
We didn't sign up for the new democracy so that we can be governed by the same people for forever. We need to test this system that we can have a different lot of people who run this country. Of course, all of those things that you mentioned, those practical things need to happen. But the things, if the system has proven to be vulnerable to abuse, so that those things don't happen, then we need to look at the system.
I don't think you're going to find a lot of counter arguments that people are desperate for the ANC to reclaim South Africa. I mean, I think that, Phumi, you feel the same way, and these polls seem to indicate ANC support is falling. Do you think the ideal outcome is for that to fall to somewhere in the 40s?
I think the ideal limit would be for it to fall to a point where it never gets to decide on its own. We're going to give so much money to to Cuba. We're going to do this without consultation. They have to be placed in a position where they have to negotiate in a multi-party forum for things to happen. Right now, they can make, and they have made lots of decisions.
As low as possible.
Even through COVID.
So the best outcome for you in the election
as low as possible.
As low as possible.
We've given them too much power. We need to take that power away because that power has made them believe they own South Africa and they don't own South Africa. We need to keep reminding them that this country does not belong to them.
What do you think the best outcome is in this election if we could wave Phumi's magic wand?
A magic wand.
Your magic wand.
My lightning scenario is a completely new crop of people with new ideas.
Yeah.
How doable in the amount of time we have left is that?
If we look at what's happened on the continent over the past 2 years with the cycle of elections, it is possible. It is possible because we do have a youth dividend. We have got many people. We've got more people who have not shown up to vote for anybody than people who showed up to vote for all of them collectively. Right? So let's start there.
That's incredible. Isn't that incredible?
And what that means is it means that when we don't have individuals who can fire up the collective imagination of South Africans about what is possible, then you don't have people showing up to be part of that. So what we don't have, and I see comments here about whether people like the EFF and the ANC are telling us anything, whether they are posters or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to be unemotional about what we see.
Emotionally mature, like Sally said.
What we see, and understand me when I say you don't have to agree with it. But what the EFF categorically says all the time is they are clear about expropriation.
Yeah.
They are clear about...
We know what some of their policy positions are.
We don't
know that about some of the others.
agree with them.
Right.
We don't have to even think that they are remotely in the realm of possibility.
Yes.
But they are consistent about those things. And they are loud about those things. Right?
Yeah.
Where you try to be everything to everybody,
You end up being
you
nothing.
become nothing.
We're going to have to stop at that point. We're going to have to call it quits. We're already at 8 o'clock. Solly, last word.
Yeah, in the end, the elections are not just for the ANC to lose. It's for somebody else to win.
It is for them to want to win it.
Right.
And what we don't see is whether it is a Songezo, and you know, I mean, I think he's trying. Songezo is trying. He's got he's trying with the new message. When we saw COPE come out, they came out and they had a particular position. NFP you spoke about came out and had a particular position. But where we are having a bunch of individuals coming together to say we are anti this, people don't vote anti. People vote for something, not against.
South Africans must stand up, play their part. Each one of us has something to do in a little corner. Wake up. It's not just about politicians sorting out your issues, our issues. We need to play our part.
Go and follow Solly on social media if you aren't already, and you can hear more of this stuff. And thank you for coming in this morning. It's always lovely to see you. It's even better to see you in person.
It's delightful for me to hear. Thank you.
Very good.
Absolutely lovely to see you.
Solly Moeng. It is 8 o'clock. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. CliffCentral.com. Coming up, Chris Papas, the mayor of the Umgeni local municipality, the DA's candidate for premiership of KZN in the 2024 election. And one of those people Phumi's talking about, young people who are standing up and being counted and actually taking responsibility for important things in society. So we're very excited to have him on the show next.